Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome. You are awesome.
sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And this week's a very special episode because for half of it, I'm going to be talking to myself. And then the other half, we're going to air the most recent episode of Late to the Game, of Thrones that we recently released, which is a show that has been on hiatus for quite some time. And if you guys haven't listened to it, it's just where Mike and I sit around and talk about Game of Thrones. I've never watched it before. Blah, 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 blah. You can see it on thatentertains.com/network, which we'll get to in a second, is where you can find Late to the Game of Thrones. Before I get to all of that, I just want to let everyone know you can find us on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. You can find us on Facebook.com/RealAwesomePod. You can find us on Instagram at AwesomePod or Awesome Podcast. I'm not 100% sure. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev, and that's where I do most of my tweeting and socializing with for the show and whatnot. And you can, of course, find us on awesomepodcast.com and coretemparts.com, where you can find plenty of other awesome shows that are way better than this one on that podcast network. So I wanted to take time because I knew that we had a show this week. I used up all my banked interviews while I was on vacation and whatnot, and because I really took like the first half or so of April off because I was prepping for vacation and whatnot. So I went through, I got through all my banked episodes, and we were starting to bank some more up, and we've plenty more of the normal show coming up. However, I did want to, because and if you've seen on Twitter, May 1st we launched, and when I say we, I mean Crude Humor Studios / That's Entertainment, the parent company to, or parent companies to Everything is Awesome, and the what Mike and I use to kind of run most of our entertainment endeavors through. We launched a podcast network finally. That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Now, I'm going to get into some history on that real quick. For the longest time, I've been trying to launch a podcast network. We kind of had one in the past called the HHWST.net podcast network. It was also called the Radio Network, and it's something that I've had in play in June is 10 years for me. It's 10 years of podcasting, and I'd say within a year of my first, within a year of starting podcasting, I wanted to do a podcast network. It wasn't called that back then. I think we just called them stations, is what we called them back then, and that's what we've been trying to do so unsuccessfully for the last almost 9 years at this point, with multiple podcasts. For the longest time, I had a front page for the network, for HHWST.net podcast, radio network, whatever you want to call it. And it was a bunch of shows that I hosted, which made a lot of sense because, I was the host, I was the linchpin, I was the face man and whatnot. And what happened with all those is that they all kind of just started to peter out because I couldn't do all the shows at the same time. And that was one of the reasons why I finally got to Everything is Awesome. And even when I started Everything is Awesome, I tried to start a podcast network again with Everything is Awesome and a few other locally based podcast shows in Philly here. And it just didn't work out. It just, it had a few back and forth conversations with a couple people, and, it just kind of petered out. The idea kind of petered out, and it's fine. Like, it's not everyone's thing, or, it's just, whatever. It just didn't come to fruition. I was like, all right, well, maybe I just need to let that go. That's not going to happen. Or, maybe I just need to focus on Everything Is Awesome for a while. And that's what I did. I focused on Everything Is Awesome for a while, and, we've grown our show. We've grown this show, with that Kevin Smith mindset of just go out there and do it and don't care about anything else. Just do it. You're going to love doing it for you. It's creatively fulfilling and whatnot. And going out with that mindset has been incredible for me and for the show. It's made it so that I don't go insane, spinning all these different plates that I'm spinning, which is, podcasting and video filmmaking, or audio dramas that we're writing, or novels that I'm working on. I have so many different plates that I'm spinning, and there's only so many hours in the day that, I forget that I'm one person. And on top of all that, like, the most important job I have is being a dad. So, a lot of times, I'll delay a lot of my stuff to be dad. And I try to work around, I don't sleep. I don't sleep very often. I try to do the things that are basically hobbies, like podcasting and writing and all that stuff is basically a big old hobby because I don't get paid to do any of this. So I try to work that around playing dad and playing family man, because it's not making me money. It's not making the family money. So why would I do it, when I could be spending time with my family? And I do obviously do it for our live shows, and no one's doing live shows at 10 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning or anything like that. So live shows are, the exception. And that's why I limit myself to about 6 a year is like what I want to do. It's like every other month. It seems like a good round number to kind of keep myself accountable. It's not overwhelming, and it's not taking me away from the family once a month or once a week even. So because again, even the live shows we don't get paid for. So starting a podcast network just seemed like incredibly like the wrong thing to do, and in the past, spinning all those plates while trying to create a network just did not make sense. Fast forward to Everything Is Awesome, trying it in a way where I wasn't going to be hosting a bunch of shows. It still didn't really work, and I set it to the side. I said, let's focus on Everything Is Awesome. Like, that's right now kind of the baby that I want to focus on, and so many good things have come from that. Mainly feeling creatively fulfilled. That's the biggest win I have here. The bonuses some bonuses is that we have a growing audience. You, the super friends, are I don't know what you guys are doing to help grow the audience, but I know you guys are, and I am forever grateful for that, because I'm not a numbers guy. I don't pay attention to the numbers until the end of the month or the beginning of the month, just to see what the previous month was. And that's mainly just to make sure that, like, there's no drastic change, no big spikes or no big drops, because that would be a little concerning, I think. And it's not, like, I love the fact that every month I look and it's continuously going up or right about where it was. And, I've read a lot about some podcast stats lately in the last, 6 months or so, and, we're right where we should be. We're right where every other podcast really kind of is. And I'm really happy that I organically kind of grew this. And I'm also, although I'm working more on a podcast than I ever have, I'm also creatively fulfilled. I don't feel like I have a second job. That's everything is awesome. It's finally the podcast that I have that I really enjoy. I don't have to rely on anyone else and on any other co-host, and that's not to say that that's a bad thing. I love doing shows with co-hosts. I wish that I had all the time in the world for me to sit down with my friends and just sit around and talk and record podcasts, because that would be great to get paid to do that. But we live in a world where that's not, everyone doesn't have that opportunity. So, then we get the live shows. Everything is Awesome is growing in that fashion. The first live podcast I did in almost 9 years at that point was the 4th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival. That was in 2016. We did that in August, and we instantly booked. I mean, within a week, we were asked to do a live show elsewhere. And then we also booked a show in New York. And that was so insane to me. We did, from August to the end of the year, we were able to get a total of 3 shows under our belt. And all because of the Philadelphia Podcast Fest, and doing the live show. It was such an amazing opportunity. And within a year of our 1-year anniversary, we had done a total of, I believe, 4 live shows. And within a year, we were able to do, we did some fun things, fun interviews with Batman and just silly things, not sticking to the norms of an interview show. I think, we kind of, sail our own boat and do what we like to do here. And sometimes a lot of times it's me just sitting here talking to myself or talking to you, indirectly at least. And like doing the interviews with fake characters, with fictional characters, is a lot of fun to me. I think that's a lot of fun for you, the audience. So I really enjoyed sitting down and chatting with Batman for 45 minutes to an hour. And we were able to join Core Temp Arts. It's a podcast network on coretemparts.com, and that was all because of something else that happened in the first year of doing Everything is Awesome. Is that I learned about the podcasting community. First, I learned about the Philadelphia podcasting community and how awesome it was and how tight it was, and how, for me, and I'm sure every community, every local community says the same thing about their local branch of podcasters. But for me, Philadelphia is it's like the greatest group of podcasters. The Philadelphia Podcasting Society is just for the most part, just everyone is really great. I don't think I've talked to anyone that's really been like, oh God. And I don't think I'm the type of person to hide that fact. I think I would call them out if that was the case. And everyone's just really cool there. And it was nice being embraced and embracing that page, and then learning of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, which I had known of from all my years of doing it. They started up the first year of the Philadelphia Podcast Fest was like the year that Santoro, who I hosted the Stabcast with all those years ago, and I were kind of teasing the idea of PodCon. We weren't calling it a festival, we were calling it a convention, PodCon. And so I had known about it, but from what I heard, the first year was kind of, growing pains, we'll say. The first year was slow. But, it's grown into this huge, awesome thing. And, like, I feel like I got in early enough to be really kind of part of something and really kind of embrace Philadelphia podcasting, and to have Philadelphia podcasting embrace me. And that's so cool. And the podcasting community in general feels almost the same, just on a much wider, spectrum. Like, I have not, since I left Reddit, I haven't ran into anyone in the podcasting community that's just a dick. Everyone is just so cool. I've met so many cool people. Boys from After 6, boys from Tattoo Bananas, There's just so many. Quest for Magic and Steel, Party of One podcast, One Shot podcast. I've interviewed really cool people that like I look up to. Aaron McGathy, James D'Amato. I've had amazing opportunities and amazing conversations with people, like a lot of people that I didn't even name because there's just so many, and they're the ones that kind of instantly jump out to me, because they're the ones that that are groups of podcasts. I interviewed them 2 at a time versus one person at a time, so they stick out a little bit more when I name drop podcasts and whatnot. But every single podcast, like I have every single podcast obviously saved to my computer, and I've listened to every single one when I go back and edit, and every single conversation means something to me, and just such an amazing first year that led us to Core Temp Arts at the end of the day. And I was like, and Chris Revel from Let's Chat with Revel and Friends, who has become a friend and is the reason that I'm on Core Temp Arts. And Carly, who runs it, and all the people involved are just really cool. It's just like every other podcasting community. So happy to be part of Core Temp Arts. I joined Core Temp Arts because there wasn't an opportunity for me to start my own. And, I talked to Chris about it, and it seemed like it was right up my alley. And then I talked to Carly, and it was right up my alley. And it's just, I couldn't say no. I could not say no. And I guess the point of that whole backstory is that, not thinking about spinning all the plates and trying to do everything in my power to make something happen, and I just kind of let it go, and it naturally happened. I was naturally able to start the That's Entertainment podcast network. On thatentertains.com/network, which is only affiliated with Everything Is Awesome in the sense that That's Entertainment and Creative Studios both serve as the parent company to both things. Other than that, That's Entertainment podcast network and Everything Is Awesome are not affiliated with one another. I am perfectly happy with Core Temp Arts. Love Core Temp Arts. I'm perfectly happy with continuing our relationship there, even beyond what our contract says for it. Everything Is Awesome is its own thing, and it found its way. That's not to say that it won't eventually go to the That's Entertainment podcast network at some point if either side of the party decides it's time to end the contract. But I don't see a reason to jump ship even after the contract, because they're just not the same thing to me. So like I can play in both. I can have my cake and eat it too, is basically what I'm saying. I feel like that's a perfectly acceptable solution. I honestly haven't talked anything over with anyone at Core Temp Arts or anything. But because Everything Is Awesome, as far as I'm concerned, is not part of the That's Entertainment podcast network, I don't think I'm breaking any rules. And I don't want to. I don't want to jump ship. I really like the group of people that are part of that podcast network. But the fact that I was able to create a podcast network of my own between a podcast or two that I host outside of Core Temp Arts, and then another podcast that I produce, and then 3 others that wanted to join up with us. It was an opportunity that like I couldn't pass up, and because it's been the dream. It's kind of been the dream, other than doing shows live, and I'm doing them live now, and so it's just kind of an amazing opportunity. I'm so excited that I got to sit here and babble for 20 to 30 minutes about the fact that I feel kind of blessed. I feel really, really blessed in every facet of my life. Professionally, which isn't this. Professionally, I feel blessed. I feel like I'm at a good spot. I feel like I'm in a place that allows me to kind of almost be my own boss to a degree, but I'm not. But there's a lot of freedom, professionally, and then as personally as a family man, I'm really blessed with my fiance and my kids and just my family in general. Despite a kind of a shitty 2016, despite losing my uncle in 2016, I'm still, I still feel blessed because, it's the old adage of whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And, for a while I was in a really low spot, but I had my professional life to keep me busy. I had my personal life to keep me sane. And I had podcasting to keep me sane. You hear us talk on various episodes with other creative types that talk about how being whatever the creative outlet is. For me, it's podcasting. It used to be wrestling. For others, it's music, it's art, it's whatever it might be. People have, they use their creative outlets to kind of forget about the world. And obviously I owe my family a huge part of keeping me sane, my kids and my fiance and whatnot. But I owe podcasting, and not so much necessarily creating podcasts. It was hard to create when my uncle passed, but the podcasting community at large, whether they knew it or not, kept me sane. And it's just it's such an honor to be part of this community. It's so awesome to have the super friends out there that that listen to this show and listen to other things that I'm involved with. The fact that I'm able to start a podcast network is really because of you guys. At the end of the day, it's really because of you guys. So, and I just wanted to have this open dialogue, and I guess it's not really open because I'm the only one. It's a one-sided conversation. But I wanted to have this one-sided conversation to explain how the podcast network came about, the That's Entertainment Podcast Network, TEPN, and that it's not going to jeopardize my relationship with Core Temp Arts. That's important to me. That's real important to me. And I'm really excited. I can't wait for the rest of this year to shake out. We have a big show coming up the end of Comic-Con weekend here in Philadelphia, June 4th. Wizard World, we're starting to book guests now. I'm starting to send out emails to get our guests booked. We're getting our posters hopefully printed within the next week or so. And we have the Philadelphia Podcast Fest coming up in July. Our show, I think it's the last 2 weekends in July 15th and 16th, and then the following weekend, our show will be on either the 15th or 16th. And one of the coolest things that's come out of being embracing and being embraced by the podcasting community, specifically the Philadelphia podcasting community, and being the type that is really pushing for live shows to be a more frequent thing in the Philadelphia area, is that, connecting with the people that run the Philadelphia Podcast Festival. They've asked me to help out. And I'm sure, really it's not a big deal. They could have asked anyone to help out. But, it's kind of cool. I love being involved in that community, in that scene. And just to be involved even a little bit by helping manage a location for a weekend is huge. I would love to get even way more involved than that. If they ever need it, if they ever need it, I'm definitely there to do it. And it's just, it's such an exciting time for podcasting because it's still the Wild Wild West when it comes to that, despite it being a medium that's about 10 years old, over 10 years old at this point. And it's just so much fun to see how podcasting's progressed in the last 10 years and just the things that we have planned personally for us. I'm really, really psyched and so happy for everyone in the podcasting community. And I think before we kick over to our late to the Game of Thrones portion of the show, I just want to say, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, but there's something that you're reserved about, don't be reserved. do it. That's the biggest hurdle, is doing it. Just starting it, hitting record. If you're listening to this still, it's been about 25 or so minutes of me talking by myself. And I'm recording right now in the middle of the day, so I'm not in my studio. I'm recording on my phone. I happen to have like a little $100 external mic that I have hooked up. But honestly, if you have an Apple iPhone and you have the Apple earbuds with the built-in mic, that's a lot of times what I end up using, and it sounds pretty darn good. I mean, maybe an audio engineer can hear the difference, but with Voice Recorder Pro and an external microphone, I think it sounds pretty darn good to record a podcast on that. That's all you need. You can do it up by yourself. Grab a friend, interview people, walk down the street and interview people. Whatever it is, you have a voice, you have a story, tell it. I just recorded an interview with Dylan Jacobson, and we were just discussing basically this, like, just do it. Just go out there and do the podcast. And everyone has a story to tell. I don't think you're going to be disappointed for starting one. And guess what? If you are, you don't like it, you don't have to ever do it again. The beautiful thing about podcasting is that it's free for nothing. And really, in today's day and age, to even start doing one is pretty inexpensive. Like I said, you don't even need an external mic. You can just do it on your phone, and with that technology, and you're good to go. And so I implore you to do it. And here's like some crazy stats for you. Like, here's, if you're starting a podcast or you're thinking about starting a podcast, my challenge to you is just do it. Just hit record and go. If you've already started one and you're just beginning, my challenge to you is to get to 10 episodes. Out of all the podcasts that start, 50% of them never make it to 10 episodes. If you've already passed 10 episodes, then I'm challenging you to make it to 50, because out of those that make it to 10 and beyond, only a small percentage actually make it to 50 episodes. And then also, if you're beyond 50 episodes, if you've been doing it, you're at 200 episodes, you're at 300 episodes, I don't care how many episodes you're at. If you're still podcasting and you don't think you have goals to meet, you have goals to meet. And don't think of numbers. That's not important. They are, for advertisers and stuff like that. But for you personally, creatively, those numbers aren't important. I challenge you to do something new. You've ever done a live show before? Do a live show. You've ever changed your show up, done something different, done something fun, do it. Make it a bonus episode. Make it a Patreon only episode. Just release it as a bonus episode on, on a Friday instead of a Tuesday or whenever you normally release your episodes. Just get out there and do something with podcasting. I think you'll enjoy it. Do something different with podcasting if you already do something with podcasting. Again, I think you'll enjoy it. It makes it feel a lot less like a job. Anyway, that's all. Just thank you all for hanging out with us. If you are looking for ways to help support Everything Is Awesome and everything else that we do with That's Entertainment and Crude Humor Studios, then please, 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 one of the easiest ways and free for nothing way to do it is go to our iTunes page for Everything Is Awesome and leave a 5-star review. That iTunes math somehow makes us more popular, and it helps. It really does help. So please, if you can do that, it means the world to me. Word of mouth recommendations are also huge. Put on our show while you're driving with someone in the car, someone that's never heard the show before. Put it on for them and let them hear the show for themselves. Let them become a super friend. You're all super friends. I want more super friends. I want you all to grow with this show. I want you to feel like you're a part of this show. Now, if you feel like you want to support another way, I've had this discussion with Jason Ashley from Too Cool for Tabletop, and I've had this discussion, you'll hear it next week, with Dylan Jacobson about Patreon. Patreon is such a wonderful way for you to support creators. Patreon.com/thatentertains is a way that you can support us financially. We're not looking to make money. If we do, that's great. But all the money that we get for the foreseeable future is to help better our programming. It's to help better us as creators, whether that means more podcast or more audio and video work. That's what it is. I want to do more and more and more, and that all is, happens because of you guys. It's going to eventually happen, if I'm being honest. Like, all my projects will eventually happen. It's just we get there quicker with your assistance. I love to bare minimum cover operational costs, and I'm happy as a goat. I don't know if that's a saying, but I'll be happy as a goat. And patreon.com/thatentertains is a great way for you to, skip out on that soda, or skip out on that coffee, or skip out on that pack of cigarettes just one time. Covers you for an entire month. $1 a month, $12 a year, bro. Hashtag $12 a year. It means, I think that $1 a month probably does not mean that much to you. I don't think you'll miss it if you were to pledge it to our Patreon, but the dollars that add up from all that mean the world to Mike and I, because that's helping us develop more content and deliver higher quality content. And it's just I guess I do talk about every episode. We don't, I don't have any Patreons, which is fine, or any patrons, which is fine. But if we had them, I know we're gonna do good by you. If you see our Patreon page at patreon.com/entertains and you think it just looks dopey, and you have recommendations for it to look better, to help, make it look, to sell it to people, let us know. Whatever. This is a collaborative piece of work here, but again, when I donate $1 here and there to other projects that I really enjoy, I don't miss that money. I forget that money exists. I would say 99% of you are in that same situation where you can forget that $1 exists and skip out on your Dunkin' or your Starbucks or your Marbles or whatever for just one day in the month, and you're covered. And it probably covers more than just my project, so, but you know what? If you can't afford it, I get it. I 100% understand. Times are tough. You need your money for your bills and medical bills and whatnot. So if it is, great. Then I don't want you to spend your money. You don't have to. Spread the word, though. Spread the good word of Everything is Awesome, and that's Entertain. Tell them about awesomepodcast.com. Tell them about thatentertains.com/network. Tell them about coretemparts.com. Leave 5-star reviews on all the podcasts that you listen to, even if it's not mine. But if you're listening to this, then leave a 5-star review. All of that costs you time. All it does is cost you time. And it means the world to us creators out there. So please, and for Everything is Awesome, I'm Kevin. You can find us on awesomepodcast.com. We've been awesome. Take it away, Mike and Kev of the past, and talk about some Game of Thrones on Late to the Game of Thrones.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.
Family is a crazy thing. They're always trying to win. Staying on top in the world of kings. It's a show with all these things. Have you ever seen a dragon soar? Had a trusty sidekick like Hodor? Might just be late to the Game of Thrones. To the Game of Thrones.
Welcome to this week's edition of Late to the Game
Of Thrones.
I am...
This week's edition. This year's edition.
I don't think we've released an episode since 2016, and even that was only on Spearmint. I never downloaded it and put it on there. We've recorded, I think, up to 208.
Yeah, I think so too.
But that is, I'm not gonna lie, probably lost forever. I'm your co-host, Kev.
I'm the other one, Mike.
And today we're going to be broadcasting both on the Everything is Awesome feed and the Late to the Game feed. For those that don't know, don't remember, if you're first-time listener, Late to the Game, ... of Thrones is our podcast about Game of Thrones. Mike, an avid watcher, has watched it since season 1-ish, I assume.
Oh, yeah, I picked it up day one.
I just started watching the Game of Thrones in 2016. That's not true. Probably 2014 or 2015.
And then just kept falling asleep.
But it took a couple watches to get through the pilot episode. So, but I'm finally, by episode 3, I was hooked, and we're going to talk about, we left off right around there near the end of season 2, and we're going to talk about 209, 210, Blackwater, and Valor Margulis.
I remember when we first started doing the show and you couldn't get like any of the names right.
Oh God, they're all so hard. They're all so hard. Before we get to all that, you can find us on Twitter at Late to the Pod. You can find us. I don't know if we have a website anymore, but we are on. Even though this isn't a regular podcast, we are on the Late to the Game of Thrones podcast is on the That's Entertainment podcast network on thatentertains.com/network. You can email us at thrones@crudehumorstudios.com. You can call us at 267-223-4965 and let us know about your thoughts of Thrones. I think I'm hoping my goal is between now and July is to just binge all of Game of Thrones. And we'll probably do like maybe monthly specials of wherever we're caught up on. Hopefully it's, the whole season.
We only have 2 months before July.
I guess we'll be doing more. I guess either our episodes will be containing a lot of seasons.
Because we have 4 seasons.
Or maybe we'll do 2 specials a month or something like that.
We'll
figure
probably
it out.
do one more before it starts in July. Because it's July
16th, I think.
So we could
at least I will be at the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. We both might. I don't know. So Philadelphia Podcast Fest for Everything Is Awesome is going to be the last 2 weekends of July. I know I am going to be the director of Awesome for July 15th and 16th and managing shows there. Everything Is Awesome. I told them I was going to put on that one of those 2 days. I don't care when. Anyway, and you can snail mail us at Late to the Game of Thrones at P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, 19030. That is where you can send. Is it Direwolves Riding Dragons?
Yes.
Okay.
But based on the fact that it's been so long, we will also accept dragons riding direwolves.
I was going to say. I forget which one it was. I also solicit my Zomcast listeners to send me zombies riding dogs.
I like it.
I think that's what it is. Anyway, let's talk some Game of Thrones. I guess we'll start with Blackwater, which is honestly the most important episode. The more important episode.
Oh, yeah. When you get to the episode 9 of whatever season you're on, it's just the most incredible episode of the season.
I feel like, for me, it's only been 2 seasons thus far, but they've been pretty consistent with that, like, being the 9th episode, the second to last episode.
Yeah, because the 9th episode of season 1 was Ned Stark losing his head.
Yeah, and so Blackwater, for me, like the green flame, like, that scene was just awesome.
Oh, yeah, everything in the bay and everything.
Yeah, by the way, guys, we jump around a lot. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense. I don't think there's anything Tyrion can do at this point to make me hate him. Like, and what a character, like, in we'll say a total of less than 20 episodes, what character growth. Like, this dude went from, like, trying to hide for more, basically, to, like, giving an inspirational speech and getting, like, rallying the troops to, despite them watching their king walk away. It was a very cool character growth, like, thing to see from Tyrion. Thus proving that, like, I don't think there's any... I think the only other Lannister that I kind of dig and respect is his father, Tywin.
Yeah.
I think, like, I don't think Tywin, at least as at this point, is, like, a complete... buffoon or D-bag like Cersei, like Jaime, like Joffrey.
And through this episode, I mean, he kicks even more butt because he rides in to save the day from Stannis, who, I mean, at this point, Stannis isn't exactly, portrayed as, like, this horrible dude, but he is kind of responsible for his brother's death, who everybody liked.
Yeah. Well, and was it this episode that, like, we see him, like, he feels bad about it?
Yeah, and I mean, well, in this episode, I think it's more about the battle, and I think in episode 10, Valar Morghulis is when he goes off on Melisandre.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get to that scene in a little bit, but, yeah, I mean, and it looked like the Lannisters were going to lose, and, Cersei was going to basically kill herself and her younger child, with that...
Milk of the Poppy or whatever it is.
Oh,
it
was the Night Vale? No.
I can't remember. There's so many weird... I'm good with names. I'm not good with, like,
it is some sort
flowers and
put me to sleep forever potion.
Yeah, I mean, she was willing to just go all out and kill her and her child.
But, I don't know, I guess it makes sense because...
You would have been a political prisoner.
Well,
or...
there's a good chance that Stannis would have killed her. Definitely her son, because, like, he's like, what if there's lineage there or whatever. So despite that, despite being family, he still would have taken care of business to protect his throne.
Yeah, and then if you look to the past, the last time that there was a regime change like that, it was the Targaryens getting the crap kicked out of them. The Lannisters' own Gregor Clegane went in and just bashed all the kids' heads into walls and stuff like that. Like, it was a big bloody mess. So, I mean, she was probably... I mean, there was, like, noble reasons to do that and everything, but she was pretty close to jumping the gun there.
Yeah, I mean, I think she... Yeah, I mean, it was... I don't think she did anything that most people wouldn't do in that situation.
Except for saying that Ilyn Payne's going to kill everybody if they come in here. Like, hey, you don't get to decide, you know?
Yeah. That was a weird, is that the bald dude that was...
That was the guy who executed Ned Stark.
Looking very creepy. Oh, yeah.
He has no tongue, so...
Looking very creepy as Sansa left the building. I almost... they made it almost seem like he was going to get his rape on. I don't like dropping that R word, but... that's what it felt like when I was watching it in the moment.
I think the actor probably... Well, the character had to emote without a tongue, which is tough. Yeah. And I'm sure... I know that the character of Ilyn Payne was... Well, the actor who played Ilyn Payne left the show for a while because he was battling cancer. So I wonder if that kind of led to, like, the appearance and everything.
But yeah, so... Episode 209 is, I think, the stars of that are Tyrion. Joffrey, wasn't... I want to call him a star of it, but, I actually was kind of impressed with, his willingness to go out on the battlefield.
Yeah, well, I don't think he ever thought... He wasn't going to step foot on the battlefield.
Yeah.
He was going to kind of direct it and kind of give, advice and everything like that. But, I mean, when... He was looking for every excuse to leave. So, when I think it was Lancel said, hey, blah, 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 your mother wants to see you.
Yeah.
It wasn't he was looking for Lancel to say, she needs you there right now, you need to go.
Yeah.
And Tyrion's kind of talking him down.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Tyrion's right. And what I like is, for Tyrion, it isn't about getting his family killed. He doesn't want to... I mean, I think he does want to see Joffrey. I don't think he likes Joffrey. I don't think he would mind seeing Joffrey dead.
Yeah, but it wasn't him going out of his way to ensure
I
that
think
it happened.
he's serving... He's the hand of the king. He's serving the king, and he's serving the kingdom to the best of his ability for what he thinks best is for the kingdom. And for him, he's saying, it's important that you're here, that...
For the morale of the troops.
Yeah, why should they fight if you're not going to fight, type of deal. And it's oh God, Tyrion is just such an awesome character.
And I think it actually means more that Tyrion stayed and fought in Joffrey's place, because Tyrion has no business fighting. He's got no training whatsoever. He's, half as big as anybody out there. And, this is his first big war. I mean, because the war that he would have partaken in the beginning of the season or whatever...
It
didn't happen because he got knocked out.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's something. So at the end of the battle, something similar happened. I feel like I totally missed who sliced his face.
So it's a guy that we've seen once or twice before.
But it's a Lannister or Baratheon.
Yeah, it was either a Lannister or it's a Kingsguard or something.
Yeah, it wasn't a Baratheon or it wasn't a Stannis guy.
No, it was definitely a Lannister. And in fact, in the second episode that we're talking about, Valar Morghulis, Varys even goes to tell him, this happened, obviously Cersei had something to do with it, watch your back.
Yeah, and that is, it's such a cutthroat family there. She either wants to fuck him or kill him.
Sometimes both. So yeah, it ended up being a situation where he was almost cut down by one of his own men, technically.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's... probably the most important person in all of this.
It is, I think that's what is shocking is that despite the fact that, and maybe it's not shocking, it just shows the loyalty to the king or the queen or whatever, but like he literally rallied the troops, which that person was part of, and they were still willing to kill him, even though their king ran away.
Yes, I mean, if Tyrion wasn't there, everything might have fallen apart.
Yeah.
And Varys even goes to say, like, we know what you did. They'll never sing any songs about you.
Yeah, yeah. And Varys, like, in this episode, turned into a pretty cool dude. Like, not that he's ever been, like... I've never looked at him and been like, oh, he is a dick. But, like, I like that... Up until that moment, like, he hasn't been... Well, I guess it was in episode 10.
10, yeah.
Up until that moment, like, him and Tyrion didn't really get along. And, like, it was, like, that little sign of respect that I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because, I mean, essentially they're both after the same thing. They both want what's best for basically the world.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrion's a little bit more into his family and everything, but, after this, who knows?
Yeah.
I
hope I hope that's the thing that makes him go Stark, full on Stark.
Could be, you never know.
Team Stark.
So the only other really big thing, I guess, I mean, besides the Lannisters winning in 2-9, was we saw one of the characters depart in 209. The Hound just completely, because of the wildfire and all the dudes on fire and everything like that, based on his own history, just pieces out. He's all right, fuck you, fuck this guy, fuck the king, fuck...
And was it in 209 we see him drinking in Sansa's room?
Yes.
And he's willing to take her back north and whatnot, and
she doesn't trust him to go.
Yeah, that's so, like, it's weird that she didn't...
And it would have been the perfect opportunity.
Yes.
Because who's going to stop them in the middle of all
and
that?
like, because chances are you're going to run into your family's camp, or he'll know how to get there. He probably knows a good idea where they're at.
Yep.
So now the only one missing is Arya. What a big old dummy she is.
Now, we see a little bit of hope in the subsequent episode when, everything's kind of being put together, because what ends up happening is the Lannisters didn't, on their own, fend off Stannis. The Tyrells.
Oh, yeah, which was...
Loras and Marjorie.
What was the Baratheon that Stannis killed? What was his
Renly.
name? Renly.
So it was Renly's paramour. I guess
Yeah.
you could say that? Can guys be paramours? I think they can.
Yeah,
So Loras has, like, a lot to... he's basically saying, look, we saved you. How about you marry my sister?
Oh, well, that happens in 210, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I think the last thing in 209, because we undersold it big time, was that fire. Was the
wildfire.
The wildfire.
Yeah.
That was a really cool scene.
Yes, and wildfire is huge in the history of Westeros and everything. That was why Jaime killed the Mad King, because he was threatening to use wildfire to burn down the entire city. That's why they had so much of it.
So that's obviously not normal fire. What I liked about it is that, like, it seemingly, like, burned on top of the water, which, like, okay, oil, like, you can, I could sell that.
Well, I think it's supposed to be like the Westeros equivalent of Greek fire.
Okay. Because it seemed like if, like, one of the guys were on fire and they jumped in water, they were still on fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the antiquated napalm, essentially. So, I mean, it's a big deal. Like, it's not like, oh, we set your boat on fire. It was like, we set the motherfucking bay on fire. What you gonna do, brother?
and I'm actually shocked how many men Stannis had, because it seemingly took out, like, a good chunk, and they still had, like, Joffrey was still worried with how many men were coming ashore.
And I don't know necessarily that it was just the men that freaked him out. It was also, what did we just do to them, and they're still coming?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, his god, his new god that he's, proclaiming and everything, is supposed to be the god of light, the god of fire, and everything like that. So it's like, oh, this fire? Not a big deal.
Yeah.
So
that 209, just awesome. I think we're underselling it a little bit because, we're crunched for time, but for me, it really just showcased Tyrion and how his character has grown over the course of the last season and a half, 2 seasons or whatever.
And 210 opens with Tyrion, right?
I think it opens with him.
It opens with him. He's opening his eyes. He's hearing the fire and everything and the screaming.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's in his room.
Oh
all
yeah,
bandaged up and everything.
And his squire's the one who ended up saving him.
Patrick.
And what I like about Tyrion in this episode is that he's worried about his looks.
Oh yeah. It's the only thing he has.
And like,
actually, in the books, he's kind of already ugly.
Yeah. Like I've seen an artist depiction of him from the books, and he's like literally looks like a troll. Like
yeah,
a little
he's supposed to be disfigured and everything, and it's really hard to do that with Peter Dinklage. But at the same time, I think the interpretation is everybody thinks of him as a monster, but he really isn't one.
Yeah. Well, in this world where, like, if you're different, you're a freak, him being short is enough to make him an outcast.
Yeah.
And I really like that, like, he was really concerned about his looks, and really, like, it's just a scar. Like, I know scars, like, some people have an issue with scars, and I get it.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not like the Hound, for instance, who's
Well,
permanently disfigured. It's
exactly.
literally a scar that's going to be there forever.
Now,
and
in
it
the
makes
books,
you look a badass.
in the books, Tyrion's nose completely lopped off. He looks like a bat person.
Oh, that's the picture I saw.
Yeah.
So he wasn't born like that in the
No.
books.
Yeah.
So in the books, in that scene, his nose gets chopped off, not just a cut.
Yeah, I think he gets like sliced like right down like the side.
Oh, that
So-
would have been badass.
And I mean, it's tough because you don't want your character to look so ugly that people aren't like, they get like heebie-jeebed out when they see him. And number two, that's a lot of makeup to.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it worked for Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort. Right? He didn't have a nose. No, but I mean, I'd much rather him be like, I don't know. I don't want to. Not that I would be like, ooh, he's like, because I don't. I wouldn't care at all. I just because again, I think his character. To me, and I've said this in every episode of this Late to the Game of Thrones we've done, is like he's very Stark-like. Like, save for the fact that he stands by his family. Not that the Starks don't stand by their family, but like he stands by the Lannisters.
Yes.
That's the only thing that really makes him different than a Stark is that he stands by the Lannisters, and maybe that will change after this in season 3 or.
Yeah. And Shay even says like, let's leave. Like they're all trying to kill you here. They're this is not a good place for you to be. And it's not like no, I have to stay here. It's but I have to stay here. Like, this is what I know. This is what I'm good at.
Well, and they kind of left it a little open to where, like, maybe, like, because he was worried about her not loving him, and she was just in it for the money, and, like, she clearly shows that he loves her.
And vice versa.
Yeah, episode 10 of season 2 here was, like, you know what they do good with their episode 10s is it closes a lot of those threads of storylines,
and subsequently leaves enough open for the next season.
Yeah, but like they always it seems like they can, at least in the last 2 season finales here, like season 1 season finale, that could have been a limited series, boom, done, and I would have been content with the story they told. Mm-hmm. Same thing here, they kind of like wrap it up in a way where you 100% can be like, all right, there's no more Game of Thrones. I've got my story. I get it. Like, what a good story.
Yeah.
Because like the wars, like I mean, Stannis is still kind of in it to win it. Like he's still Melisandre convinces him.
They never explain how he gets away. I don't believe.
Well, in 209, like I think when Tywin gets there and brings reinforcements, I think it's Stannis' men that pull him away, and I'm sure they just kind of slip out.
I didn't think of that because I mean I've seen the episode 2 or 3 times, and I always thought like he was just being overwhelmed by Lannister forces, but that actually
I think he was getting pulled away by his own men.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. They're going like, hey, don't be stupid.
Yeah, that's what I envisioned, at least when I watched it.
See, and it's cool because I've seen this so many times. This is your first time seeing it, and you're getting like a completely different interpretation.
Yeah.
So.
And in 210,
he's back on Dragon's Den.
He flips out on Melisandre, right?
Yeah.
And loved like choking her to death, and then eventually gives up. And then by the end, this is where he feels remorseful about killing his little brother. And I like that. I like that he felt remorseful about it. Like it not that it makes it okay, but like it's kind of it's a nice little ribbon on a shitty situation.
Yeah, I mean it's like I did this all for what?
Yeah, exactly. And like by the end of it, she kind of convinces him that like, oh no, there's still this fire like God that
And
you
he
should be
believes
praying
it
to.
too. He's looking into the fire and he goes,
Yeah,
"Oh, okay."
yeah, I wish-
And we don't see it.
No.
So again, it kind of feeds back into what the books do, where it's like, all right, well, what's he seeing that we're not?
I kind of wish that they did, and I guess maybe that's the point. What you just said, it probably makes it a better story. But it would have been cool, like, not that we see it directly, but if we saw something like, it didn't even have to be like something that you can visibly see, as far as like, oh, I know what that is, but like something in his pupils, the reflection
Yeah,
changed.
like maybe the flicker of the flames
something,
a little brighter, or something.
because all it was is it looked exactly the same. And that's what I thought they were aiming for. I thought they were
Yeah.
going to do that, and they didn't.
Yeah, it seems almost like, and it's a big central point in the series, is his faith has been kind of renewed and everything. You know, there's all kinds of different gods and everything, so, you know.
We also get Jamie and
Brienne.
Brienne. That's what I like about that scene is like Jamie, like it looked like he got a lot of respect for her by the end of it. She took down 3 dudes on her own.
Mm-hmm.
They were Stark men, which you know he said so, and he's like, I don't care. Like she says that.
Yeah, I don't serve the Starks, I serve Lady Catelyn.
Yeah,
It's not the same.
and like, and to be honest, I mean, those 3 Stark guys were just as bad as the Lannisters.
Yeah, I mean,
you
they
know?
were doing some pretty shady stuff.
Like
those poor women probably didn't do anything.
They were probably raped and then hung, and then obviously they said 2 of them were killed quickly, 1 of them suffered, and like just a cool scene where she dispatched 2 of them quickly,
Just beat
and
the crap out of
and
them.
then oh my god, what a terrible way to go for him, but
Mhm.
well deserved.
Yep.
What else happened in this episode? What else did we get a little ribbit on?
Well, we got the Rob and Catelyn and the Robin Talisa.
Oh yeah, like something that I've been. I don't have any of my theories anymore, but I'm sure that was one of them. They were going to hook up and get married. And like, so he throws his deal with the phrase out the door, and out the window is the real phrase, not out the door. No one says
Right
that.
out the door.
But and he marries the nurse lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Talisa.
And because he wants love.
Is it Talisa in the show? Yeah, it is Talisa.
He wants love, not an arranged marriage. And I say good for him. I mean, it's.
So what's the deal from here on? I know you don't. Do you think, like, does he keep it on the DL, or is he, you know, like, right out with it? And he's like, oh, this is my wife, like.
Well, I feel like he'll keep it on the DL until the war is settled down. Obviously, it's gonna get out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't have a good storylines. But I don't think he's going to outright say anything. I think he's going to keep it on the DL. But Rob seems like the type of guy that would address it once business is taken care of, once his family's back. You know, I mean, obviously, I think they want to kill the Lannisters for killing their father. I don't think he wants to be on the Iron Throne. I think he's content with taking the North and making it its own thing and just ruling the North. So I'd be okay with that. Before we go to the Narrow Sea, the other thing we get in this episode is on the other side of the wall, where we get the kingdom on the other side of the wall. We finally see that.
Yeah, that was almost like the big ending point.
Was that the big ending point? Oh,
I think
no. It ended on
Sam and the White Walkers.
Yes. So we'll go back to that. So we will go across the sea.
Well, we still have Winterfell. Theon and the kids.
Yeah, it was boring.
I mean, it was Theon gives this speech that rivals Tyrion's speech, and then just
I
right
love
in the
that
back
his
of the
own.
head.
Now, are they taking him back to Iron Heights? No, Iron Heights is a jail in the Flash universe.
So ostensibly at the end of this, they're taking him back to the Iron Islands because it looks stupid to not bring the son of your king home. But it almost seems like it might be better for them to, you know, I mean, they burned everything down.
So who was going back to Winterfell? Was it Starks? The Starkmen? Or was it...
Well, if you recall in one of the earlier episodes, one of Rob's, like, commanders or whatever, Bruce Bolton, says he's going to send his men. So it's not actually Stark,
But it's Northern
yeah.
men that believe in the Starks.
Yeah, and not only that, but Northern men who apparently know how to do psychological warfare, because Theon's complaining about that guy who's blowing the horn. He's like,
Oh, God, that was probably the best part of the episode. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good part of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, Alfie Allen does a really good job. I mean, he's an easy character to hate and everything because of what he's done.
Yeah,
but you still kind of feel sympathy for him because he is acknowledging the fact that, like, wow, what have I done?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I just it rubs me the wrong way that he was like my king, and then he so easily turned his. And I get it, like he was technically stolen from his family by that man, by his brother's father, you know.
Yeah.
So I get it, but it is like it's like come on, dude. Like we all know the Starks are the good guys here. Like if we had to call it black and white, and we had good guys and bad guys. Like right now, you're a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right now, you're an a-hole.
And we don't know necessarily what happens to Theon, but we did unfortunately see what happened to
Yeah,
Mr. Lewin.
that was like that was a little like a sad moment because he's not a huge character in the show, but he's a cool character. He's a
like
nice
the,
character.
the kind old grandfather figure. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
You know, and
that was a heartwarming scene between him and the kids and whatnot.
And he's like the last big adult who left, you know, who was in season 1 because you got no more Roderick, you've got no more Ned, you've got no more Rory, you've got no more Meister Lewin.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
The last old head that you got
Yeah.
is Catelyn.
So that was a little heartwarming, and he like you know says to the I forget her name, Osha, like you have to defend them, you might have to fight your own people, and she was like she was into it. She's like,
I haven't got a problem with that. And
I think she even said that if they're here, they're not my people. And like I think alluding to the fact that like she knows about the White Walkers, like she knows that there's something terrible on the other side of the wall. And I think that's what she's alluding to, that if they come across the wall, they're not my people. I think she was saying they're going to be White Walkers.
And then the only other thing that we have on this side of the wall besides the Jon and Sam stuff is Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie.
Yeah,
with,
and the only useful part of that is like the weird...
The face shift.
The face shift. Like, that's straight up magic. That's not, like, let me just do disguise.
But it's also religion, because he's talking about being like this, you know, the one god, or the many-faced god, or whatever it is. So he gives Arya an out, and he says, you know, like, if you ever want to travel across the sea and come to Braavos, you need this coin. And then the eponymous Valar Morghulis keeps getting repeated.
I think... My opinion is that before we get to whatever season 7 we're going into, she's going to go there and get trained by this dude.
That's your theory?
Badass. Yeah, that's the theory that I have. That we're not maintaining. But I just like I kind of just assume that because obviously I know like from last season's imagery she's like total badass.
Oh yeah, she's grown up to be.
So I assume she grew up to be baby Ned Stark. Like she's her father's daughter. So I kind of assume that in one of these seasons between now and then. So even like in season 3, 4, or 5, I assume she goes and spends some time with him to get trained.
Assumption.
And that's really the important thing from that scene. Like,
it was a very quick.
Yeah, because she's like she would have gone now had she not been worried about her family, or at least worried about her family knowing where she is.
Yeah, if she knew that like the rest of her family was dead, I don't think that revenge would have driven her to stay because she's smart enough to know that training probably wouldn't have been a bad idea. Yeah. And then we both travel across the Narrow Sea, which was, I think, and I've been consistent with this, I feel like Daenerys' stuff is consistently weaker.
Yeah, we had in season 1 a strong finish to Across the Narrow Sea, but in season 2, I mean, this is probably noticeably the best stuff we've seen from Across the Narrow Sea in season 2.
Which isn't saying much.
But overall, season 2 Across the Narrow Sea has been super weak.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy seeing the baby dragons again.
Did you enjoy seeing the Khal Drogo again?
That was cool.
That didn't happen in the books from what I recall. Yeah. So it was just a cool way to get Jason Momoa to come back.
I hope they bring him back every season. I don't know how you're going to do it. Bring him back every season. Because I like Jason Momoa as a person.
Yeah, and that was a very sad and like touching moment.
It was, because she could have stayed in whatever
dream world
she was in, and she knew that she needed to go back to our side of the Narrow Sea and take over.
Yep. She needed to save her baby dragons.
I don't kn-
She could hear them crying
Yeah,
through whatever veil she
I
was
don't
in.
know if this is something I know I haven't read anything about Game of Thrones as far as like spoilers, but I feel like I don't know. There's something in me that I feel like I read it somewhere. I don't think this is my theory, but I feel like at one point Jon Snow and her are going to create the ultimate royal family.
Maybe. I mean, when you think about it, he's ice and she's fire, so it kind of makes sense to some extent.
I don't know. I don't think
I-
that's my theory.
I think that there was a rumor in real life that Kit Harington and
Well, yeah.
Amelia Clark were hooking up.
Yeah,
So.
he broke up with crazy northern lady in real life, and I think they are dating with. Like, I don't know if it's still current. I mean, I haven't read the news sheets in a while.
News sheets? Is that what they're called?
That's, I think what they
Are they
call
called word papers? I can't remember. So her kind of thing ends with, the really silly. Well, actually, it's a two-part thing. Her dragons apparently are big enough now where they can blow fire and they completely, incinerate that guy. And then at the end of the episode, she gets back at the other guy who betrayed her. Zaro Zombie.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene.
Oh yeah, and the music was so empowering for that scene and everything.
It was like I said, the coolest stuff that's happened over there since we've been in season 2, and they were able to, he had no money.
It was all fake.
Horrible death for him. And was that her person that was like?
It was her handmaiden who
the one that was
her and her brother at various times, I think.
Yeah, and she was really close with her, and she's the one that taught her how to love Cat.
And in a deleted scene, you find out that she's the one that strangled the other handmaiden. The one who's it is known, that lady. So I mean, she was not all nice and everything.
But what a way to kill those! They're locked in there. They are going.
And that's a very special key. It's not like you can call a locksmith or anything.
No one's. Well, I'm pretty sure they just killed everybody. The Khaleesi killed and her group killed everybody that was left in that town.
Oh, I'm sure.
I just assume.
Karth is big, but I don't know if it, how big it is. And
At least
it's a lot of illusion. I mean, all of the episode, said, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. So.
But they were able to take all the golden treasures and melt that down.
And Jorah makes mention that maybe they could buy a boat.
Yeah, a small boat, but they can get a boat. So I'm hoping in season 3 we just get her back to over here so that we can have something good for Daenerys.
Yeah, because she her story is kind of slow. It's kind of taxing. It's come on, when is when are we going to see her actually get up there and move?
I mean, like I said, she finished strong in season 1 and not so much. Season 2 is kind of just it went down from season 1 and just stayed level. Yeah. But this episode does it ends on the White Walkers, but that whole Winterfell, the other side of the wall stuff is we get we get the Jon Snow and
Qhorin Halfhand, that
fight where he doesn't want to kill him, but he has to so that he gains the trust.
He's given him ammunition, your mom's a whore.
Yeah.
Your
Oh God.
a
Yeah. But they
and there's no telling that Qhorin would have gone easy on him if the fight went on. He could have been you know what, one of us has to live, otherwise we're both gonna die.
It seems like if Qhorin won, they would have left him in chains.
Probably.
But because Jon Snow killed him, I guess this guy is the bane of these people's existence. They freed him, and they're like, "You're one of us, boy."
Yeah, I mean, you killed the half-hand who's killed so many of us.
Yeah, and they show him that there's a whole other kingdom on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, all these wildlings, and they're somehow unified under this Mance Rayder.
Yeah, and then we go back to Jon's friends, and they're running away from.
This is your Walking Dead moment.
Yeah. They're running away from what initially looks like just a bunch of snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's coming.
Yeah, I mean they hear the 3 horns, which means White Walkers. So they run right away, and unfortunately Sam is kind of a heavyset dude.
I was watching that. I was like, oh my god, my theory is gonna be right. He's gonna die for being a buffoon,
and yet they walk right by him.
And they walk right by him, which looking at his hiding spot initially, I was like, oh, that's a good hiding spot, but then you just turn that camera a little bit, and that's a terrible hiding spot.
Yeah, and they look right at him. I mean, he knows. He's whimpering.
And it's that one on the horse back that seemingly notices him. These aren't your Walking Dead walkers.
No, yeah. They're not out for blood and sniffing and smelling.
They are more of an advanced, they're another species. tsunamis. It's like these whatever turns the living or
Into
I guess
whites
the
or
dead,
White Walkers or
yeah,
whatever they
whatever
are.
turns the dead into zombies, into these White Walkers. They retain a little bit of smarts. It looks like.
At least the guy on the horse. The other
Yeah.
guys kind of look like they shamble and everything.
Yeah, but like seeing the undead horse was kind of cool. But it looks like they're right at the wall, right?
Close enough. I mean,
Like-
I guess when we see John leave the rest of their group, they're far enough away. I think where they're probably closer to Craster's Keep than they are to the wall.
It just looks like that scene where they ignored Sam and just was looking on. It looked like they were at the wall.
I don't think it was the wall. I think it was more like a mountain. But
Oh,
I could be wrong.
I don't
I mean,
know.
it's been so long, and I was only kind of like in passive.
I just know that these nuts of the Seven Kingdoms are all having civil war, and they're gonna have they're gonna be living the Walking Dead lifestyle soon.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
need
As soon as the White Walkers pass the wall,
yeah.
all shit's
They need Rick Grimes. That's who they need. They somehow need that to survive. All right. I don't think there's anything else from this episode that we need to talk about.
No, we got you well over your deadline.
Yeah. It's but these two episodes are great. Really liked the Tyrion stuff throughout both. I mean, they might as well call this, the Tyrion, Game of Tyrion.
Game of Tyrions.
Game of Tyrion. That's all I care about. So season 3 is what's coming up next for me. I'm going to try to binge it in the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, and I'm going to start watching them again as well.
Yeah.
And I think Brienne is probably going to pick up again around like the 9th episode of the 3rd season.
Yeah.
And then, I doubt that she'll ever have anything to contribute to our conversations or anything. But
But you, the listener, can contribute to our conversations if you want to talk about Game of Thrones or anything, really. But by calling us at 267-223-4965, leaving a voicemail, you can send us an email at thrones@careerhumorstudios.com. You can check us out on the interwebs. We are part of the That's Entertainment Podcast Network on thatentertains.com/network. We're on Twitter at LateToThePod. And most importantly, you can send us pictures of dire wolves riding dragons or dragons riding dire wolves to Late to the Game of Thrones at P.O. Box 177 in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. That's 19030. Do it. It will be awesome.
We want them damn pictures.
I actually, on one closing note, I got and I posted it on Twitter and Facebook already. I got a thank you note from Mike, who
saw that. I liked it.
Yeah,
Twitter.
he hosts Doom Thugs, and they did the live show that we did in March with us, and he sent me a physical thank you card.
That was
which
a
was
real
awesome.
classy
Oh
move.
my god, and I meant to bring it with me so I can hang it up at work, but I want to get I'm gonna frame it, and that's gonna be forever living in whatever ends up being my studio one day. Because that's just no one who does that?
Well, guys who wear tuxes too.
Oh my god,
Or
yeah,
suits,
he
too.
is a classy gentleman. He is so super classy. So shout out to Doom Thugs. Check out the #1 podcast in Delco at doomthugs.com. Meanwhile, you have been listening to Late to the Game of Thrones on the #1 podcast in Bucks County's feed. Everything is awesome. That's right, we stole it. I told him I was stealing it. Everything is awesome. #1 podcast.
Probably true too.
That's got to be true. Who else does a podcast in Bucks County? The only podcasts in Bucks County are my 17.
Yeah. One of them has to be #1.
Yeah, I assume it's Everything is Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev.
You can find me on Twitter at TellUsTellEst.
And you can find this show on Twitter if you're looking for Everything is Awesome at Real Awesome Pod, or you can find this show Late to the Game of Thrones on Twitter at Late to the Pod. Until next time, Throners, I'm Kev.
I'm Mike.
We'll see you wherever we're at. And don't forget to stay late.
Oh, crap.
This has been a That's Entertainment Podcast Network podcast. Looking for more podcasts about pop culture, TV and film, and other entertainment? Find all our shows on thatentertains.com/network.